trunk of the church, the root and trunk of the church. We're the branches over here. This is where, if you recall, Paul was on the road to Damascus. Damascus was the first, where the first great church was outside of Jerusalem. And this is many of the people that we're dealing with are the descendants of Peter and some of the other apostles. I mean, they have the blood of those apostles in them, some of them, and they're being driven out of a land that they have managed to stay in for 2,000 years, despite massive oppression by the Ottomans and others. They've managed to stick it out there until now. And I feel it's my duty. I can't say it's America's duty, and maybe we shouldn't be involved everywhere. But Christians, I think, particularly worldwide, should try to do their best to help the trunk of the tree of Christianity remain in place and not to allow it to be chopped down.
Mr. Murray, how can we and our audience best help your efforts? Just go to your website?
Yes, that'd be good. Our Christmas for Refugees is our next big project, because we have thousands and thousands and thousands of children. We do this every year, and if somebody would like to see just that, go to our christmasforrefugees.org and take a look at the information there and see what we did last year, see some of the videos, see what they do and what we do there, and I think they'll appreciate the idea. We're not just handing people gifts, and passing out food or passing out this or that or the other thing. We are trying to reinstill hope and give them a remembrance of what their Christmas was like before they were forced out of their homes. And by the way, it's hard for them to go back. All those homes were looted. Everything's been taken. Every machine from every factory, every piece of furniture from every home, the clothing, the appliances, the fixtures. Everything was carted up to Turkey and sold in order to finance the Islamic State's war. And then many of the homes, like in Karakush, Iraq, the Christian homes, they took C4 and they didn't blow it up. They took it and they lit it inside of the homes, causing flames that melted the beams inside of the walls. So 75% of the homes in towns like Karakush that were Christian towns in Iraq are not habitable. Schools destroyed, church towers blown off from churches that are hundreds of years old. It gives you a sense of, I can't even describe it. I've walked the streets there. I've looked at it. I've been in the homes. I can't even describe to you the feeling that I have inside, even remembering it. I can't, it's not possible to describe it.
That's, Joe, that says a lot. I mean, to hear that.
And, we've been seeing from the Gulf War to the Arab Spring, the turmoil that has just torn apart the Middle East. And it's unfortunate when you think of what America's role in the destruction of these countries have been, and the amount of loss of life there is unfathomable, and it's only going to continue to get worse. Mr. Murray, if we can come back to the U.S. In the last few minutes we have with you. Again, our guest is William Murray at Utopian Road to Hell. Folks, go to HagmannReport.com. At the top there, you have the WorldNet Daily Superstore. Use promo code Hagmann to get the book. Coming back to the U.S., throughout these push towards utopian societies and with these totalitarian systems of government, whether communism or socialism, do you believe that the ideological gap between Americans, do you believe it's as big as the media is promoting it to be? The media will almost have you believe that half the country believes as they do, almost accepting this communist totalitarian type mentality away from the Constitution. Do you believe that as many people, almost half the country, is as divided as they say it is?
I I believe that probably 70% of the population isn't even involved, but that's a whole other thing. Uh, it is the people that pay attention. Half the people that pay attention, are probably with them. I have no idea what that is. I don't even think that a lot of the millennials that are attracted by social media that charge out into the streets for these spontaneous demonstrations really have a good idea of what they're doing there. They're going for some ambiguous thing called social justice. And if somebody wants a lesson on that, they might want to read a book by Friedrich von Hayek called The Constitution of Liberty. It is much more, it is probably the most important book he ever read, because he goes into what happened in by the way, the foundation for Hitler was built by the socialists in Germany. They're the ones that built this social infrastructure, and with all of the agencies and the social agencies and everything else, that when Hitler took over, he was able to almost immediately take over the lives of all of the people very, very quickly because of that infrastructure that they built. That same infrastructure and social infrastructure that is being built here, by the way. And that has been being built since Woodrow Wilson, and is just as bad, just as complex as that was pre-Hitler in Germany. So no, I don't think that they're right. I don't think that they have that big of a following. Unfortunately, I think the biggest problem we have in this country is that more people are watching American Idol than they are paying attention to CNN or Fox.
Boy. Well said.
Well, I'm gonna a follow-up question to that. I guess historically, and maybe this will be making history. I'm sure, obviously, it will at some point. The ideological divide in America. Is there any way to find a coming together or reunification, or are we going to see one side or the other win in the long run?
I'm going to go back to Friedrich Hayek in the Constitution of Liberty for just a second, because he said that the two things that are important for the people. One is for there to be a definable sphere of liberty, and in that sphere of liberty, the people can do what they want to do. They can find the jobs they want. They can run the businesses they want. They can take their money that they earn and they could use it as they want. The problem with the two philosophies, and the reason it's so hard to find middle ground, is because one group wants to expand that sphere of liberty, and the other group wants to shrink that sphere of liberty, with the government and the elitists controlling more and more and making the decisions for individuals inside their sphere of liberty. The other thing that Hayek points out is that we have to have that the most important role of good government, and there has to be some government because there has to be some restraint to criminal activity, is for the rules can be consistent. And that helps to expand that sphere of liberty, and that means that if you go to bed at 5 o'clock on Monday, that if you made money doing something all day on Monday, and you go home and you go to bed, the Tuesday morning, what you did making money on Monday isn't illegal on Tuesday. And we don't have that anymore in our country. We have these raging bureaucracies that have been created by Congress that make their own laws. And one day a farmer can plow his field and everything's fine. And the next season he goes to plow it and he's told, no, the ditch over there is a navigable waterway. You can no longer plow your field and you can no longer plant your crop. So we have this sphere of liberty getting smaller. But going back directly to your question, I don't see a middle ground between one ideology that believes that sphere should be shrunk because people need controlled in order to make them happy, that they need directed in order to make them happy, and the other group which feels that sphere needs to be increased so that you have the maximum amount of liberty to make your own choices and your own decisions and decide what to do with your own money.
Fantastic.
Very well said. Fantastic. One of my favorite quotes in your book, and I'm paraphrasing, is that capitalism distributes opportunity while socialism distributes poverty. And that's not an exact quote, but I just read that in your book. Folks, William J. Murray, The Utopian Road to Hell. Get it at WND Superstore. The link is on the top of HagmannReport.com.
And by the way, he's going to be a speaker at the Act for America rally on 9/11 in Washington, D.C. Is that correct, Mr. Murray?
Well, actually, it's the 9/11 rally, but it's going to be on the 9th.
On the 9th. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So because the 9/11 will be on a weekday, but it'll be on the 9th, and but it is to remembrance of 9/11. I'll be there. Robert Spencer will be there. A few other individuals, and we will talk about the situation, particularly with regard to we're going to remind people, I think, about who is responsible for the terrorist acts in the United States that kill a lot of people, and it isn't a couple of Nazis in Charlottesville that drive a car into people.
Understood. Got to go, Mr. Murray. Hope you'll come back. God bless you. Thank you so much for your gracious gift of time.